G'day guys, Nick here with Hydro Experts and welcome back to our YouTube content series. Today we're talking about mixed flow EC fans from the Hyperfan range. What do fans actually do? We've got Adam with us from Wholesale Horticultural Group to explain how these products work. We're also going to touch on automation from the Hyperclimate V2. Adam, thanks for joining us today. Okay, so what are fans actually for?
Well, there's three things fans are for generally when we're talking hydroponic grow rooms and greenhouses. First is removing the heat that may be produced by either the sun shining through clear plastic or by artificial lighting that's been added to the area. Secondly, we're exchanging carbon dioxide. There's only about 400 parts per million of carbon dioxide in the air. We need as much of that running over the leaves as possible so the plants can get what they like. We love oxygen, they love carbon dioxide. The more air we can put over the leaves, the better. And thirdly, in many situations, people are running carbon filters, activated carbon filters like this one. These things create quite a lot of pressure, all right? And this is where the mixed flow fans really excel over things like centrifugal or bladed fans. These are high pressure fans made for high pressure applications. Generally, you'll lose 25% of your airflow with a mixed flow fan, but that can be as much as 50 or 60% with a centrifugal fan. So these things are going to hold much truer to the rated air movement or CFM or litres a second that's stated on the box than say a centrifugal fan will when you use a lot of ducting and a carbon filter.
Let's talk about what mixed flow is.
Mixed flow is where you have a bladed fan at the front and then a set of stators at the back. What this does, much like a jet airplane, is it gives you a very fast, high, linear flow of air.
Let's talk about mixed flow versus AC.
Okay, well AC, these are particularly an EC fan. So these are electronically commutated fan. Basically what that means is they have a circuit board or a PCB in there and they convert the power from 240 volt AC to 0 to 10 volt EC. That allows us to control the fan very well, some 1600 steps from 0 RPM all the way up to 100%. So we can speed control these very well. As a standard fan, they'll come with a little speed controller on the cord, and I can dial these EC fans up or down without any noise, vibration or resonation. AC fans, the old AC fans, although very reliable and quite trustworthy, old technology, you certainly can't speed control them without expensive capacitor-driven speed controllers, and quite often the speed controller required for an AC fan is worth up to double of what the actual fan costs.
Okay, excellent. So we're looking at maybe some more automation with the EC fan. Are we also talking about a noise reduction from the AC fan comparison?
Not so much noise reduction, although when you dim them down or you speed control them, there is no noise. You won't get humming or resonation. So the actual air movement doesn't change per volume. So if I had an AC and an EC fan that were moving the same amount of air, generally good design will make them slightly quieter, but trying to speed control an AC fan, you'll find that it gets quite noisy and resonates and hums and makes all these weird noises. You're not going to get that from an AC fan.
Okay, so what if I did want to reduce the noise?
If you do want to reduce the noise, we would suggest to actually buy a silenced version. So this is a silenced Hyperfan, this one here, and this is actually that little fan inside this housing. And this housing will reduce the noise by 70%, which is quite substantial. If you wanted to go even further than that, you can pull insulated duct right over this housing entirely. That'll probably knock another 10 or 15% off the noise. You can virtually get these things down to almost nothing, which is great considering how much air these things are actually capable of moving.
Excellent. So it sounds like they're easy to use and quiet as well. But let's talk about automation. What can the V2 offer us?
Look, we've gone into automation because we've found it quite necessary. We've gone ahead and made the new V2 climate control. There's some improvements on this model to the last model. We have 2 points of temperature management. One is incoming air and one is air in the room. We also have a light sensor connected for the V2 climate control, which will tell us when the lights are on and the lights are off. And the reason for this is the multiple points of measurement allow for a more accurate reading of what's going on in your environment. So at all times, this little unit here will give you a 25% offset for your outlet fan to your inlet fan. And the reason we need a 25% offset is because you'll lose 25% of your airflow when you push it through a carbon filter.
Okay, so as a hobbyist grower, what size fan do I need?
That's a great question, Nick. Most of your hobbyist growers are using tents these days. Your tents usually have a 150mm hole, generally. This is a 150 fan. This is going to fit that perfectly. It's quite a high flow fan. It's probably larger than needed for most of your small areas. Okay. But the great thing is you can turn it down from 35 watts to around 10 or 15 watts, and it's going to be the most efficient fan that you could possibly use there. It's going to use less power than a light bulb. And on extremely hot days, you always have the option to turn it up.
Wow, that's not using much power at all. So when would I need something like this?
Okay, so obviously a larger room and more lights and more heat are going to require a larger fan. So the 200mm is good for 3,000 to 4,000 watts generally. This one 5,000 to 6,000 watts. And again, if for commercial applications where they're using 12,000 watts, you'd use 2 of these, 3 of them, etc. You just add like a module.
Fantastic, so we've covered a lot about fans today. Guys, thanks so much for joining us. Adam, thanks so much for coming in.
You're welcome, Nick.
Don't forget to like, subscribe to the channel, and stay tuned for more with Hydro Experts.